Spoilers for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness post-credit scene follow. I'm sure you knew that if you clicked on this video, but I figured I'd let you know anyway. A lot of people in my particular theater showing of Doctor Strange 2 stood there scratching their heads at the mid-credits scene. Many people had no idea whom they just saw appear on screen and how important this character is to Doctor Strange, and that is okay. That's why you have me. The post-credit scene for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has introduced to the MCU one of Doctor Strange's oldest and, closest allies and love interests. Clea is, for all intents and purposes, the true love of Doctor Strange's life. She has a storied legacy in comics and has been around almost as long as Stephen has. Today's video is going to cover the brief history of Clea Strange, wife of Doctor Strange, current Sorcerer Supreme of Earth and the Dark Dimension, and one of the most powerful masters of the mystic arts in comic history. Clea made her comic book debut in Strange Tales 126, which was one of the earlier appearances of Doctor Strange, created by the absolute dream team of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. If you want to skip her comic book origin and go straight to her actual comic book history, then go ahead and go to the timestamp on the screen now. Strange Tales was a book that featured multiple stories, usually two. In issues 126, Doctor Strange found himself returning home from a battle against Baron Mordo and is immediately brought to the Ancient One, his master and teacher. The Ancient One tells Strange of a new threat called the Dread Dormammu, who's the most powerful being he's come across and seeks to enter their dimension to enslave everyone. The Ancient One also casually mentions that even he can't defeat Dormammu, but he's like, hey, hope everything works out for you, enjoy the battle, bye, and he transports him to the Dark Dimension. There, Strange battles various entities while being observed by a woman with white hair, whom at first we don't have a name for. This being is incredibly impressed with Strange's abilities to battle some of the most fearsome foes in the Dark Dimension. Strange battles through the dimension until reaching Dormammu, who mocks him. He's actually so overconfident that he lets Strange take a break and think about if he really wants to fight him. That's just an absolute baller move. While Strange is thinking it over, the woman with white hair comes to tell Strange that Dormammu is the leader of this dimension and a legit terror, but he is the one thing stopping their dimension from being invaded and destroyed by a race of beings called the Mindless Ones. Strange finds himself in a bit of a mystical pickle. Either he fights Dormammu and gets clapped and dies and then everybody on Earth dies, or he fights Dormammu and wins and everybody here dies at the hands of the Mindless Ones. Ultimately, Strange chooses to save Earth and he fights Dormammu. But Dormammu is significantly stronger than Strange, and he actually ends up coming close to beating him after exerting more power than Dormammu expected to have to exert. This exertion causes the barrier protecting the Dark Dimension to come down and the Mindless Ones to invade. Strange then decides to help Dormammu save his dimension and erect a new barrier. Dormammu reluctantly yields and awards Strange the victory. Seeing as that Strange has won, Strange asks that Dormammu stay away from Earth, and that Dormammu spare the white-haired woman, whom Dormammu saw as a traitor for helping Stephen earlier. Dormammu agrees and Strange goes back to Earth, where the Ancient One awards him a new cloak of levitation and the amulet of Agamotto. Now, Clea isn't actually even named in these first two appearances, she's just called Woman. Great work, Stan, very progressive. She again assists Doctor Strange across dimensions when he's pursued by Baron Mordo and against Dormammu another time, and she's finally given a name in Strange Tales 146 after I think 9 appearances. Now, let's discuss more of Clea's actual background, accomplishments, and her current history. Clea was born in the Dark Dimension to her mother and the sister of Dormammu, Umar. Umar and her brother Dormammu are beings known as Faltines, essentially beings of unlimited magical potential from another dimension. Clea's father, Orini, was one of Dormammu's closest disciples and descendant son of the original king of the Dark Dimension. When Umar gave birth to Clea, it weakened her significantly and made her violent and mad, and in her weakened form it gave Dormammu a chance to banish her to a pocket dimension. Dormammu had now removed one of the only people who could potentially be powerful enough to challenge him for rule of the Dark Dimension. Clea was raised by her father Orini to be a strict follower of Dormammu, however that all changed when Stephen arrived to battle Dormammu. Clea aided Stephen in multiple battles against Mordo and Dormammu, and Stephen began to care for her over time. However, after each battle, Clea was moved to another dimension in order to avoid the further wrath of Mordo or Dormammu or even her own mother Umar. Eventually, Stephen brought Clea to New York, where she began studying at the Sanctum Sanctorum, and over time the two had many adventures together and they even fell in love. Clea, however, intended to return to the Dark Dimension to rule after Dormammu had disappeared. Clea battled her own mother for the throne of the Dark Dimension and beat her, banishing her mother and father to another dimension. In one of the most significant actions of Clea and Strange's comic lives, in Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme number 3, Stephen finally confesses his undying love and they wed. However, due to the fact that Clea is technically an extra-dimensional being, they couldn't legally be married. Wow, great job, US courts. Stephen and Clea ended up wearing magical bands that bound them together throughout eternity. Despite being married, Clea was often gone for long periods of time defending and ruling the Dark Dimension, and even asked Stephen to annul their marriage at one point, although he was unable to do that. Now, what remains in this video are some pretty significant spoilers for Doctor Strange's current status quo and potentially the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so if you don't want to know, have a great day and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're still here, super duper! During 2019's Doctor Strange run, Stephen makes a deal with Mephisto that's very similar to a spell that he casts at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, wherein Mephisto would help Stephen rebuild the universe in exchange for Clea forgetting him entirely. Stephen agrees, and Clea ultimately forgets him completely. Over the last year, Marvel had been telling a miniseries called The Death of Doctor Strange, where Doctor Strange is initially murdered by an unknown assailant, leaving the door open for dimensional threats. Upon Stephen's death, Clea regains her memories of Stephen per the pact with Mephisto. The gist of The Death of Doctor Strange is that Earth's mightiest heroes faced off against the Three Mothers, who are powerful witches from another dimension. And they are the type of characters that just kind of show up and they're so unbelievably powerful that no one can stop them, yada yada yada. We've all seen it before. And their goal ultimately was to feed a being called the Peregrine Child, which was like an eldritch being with a very specific hunger for magic, until it had consumed all magic. But fortunately for the heroes of Earth, many years before, Stephen Strange kind of pulled the equivalent of a Horcrux in the Marvel Universe. Strange carved 1 week out of his younger self's life and hid it away so that when he died, he could return as a younger man for a week and see that his affairs were in order. This younger, pre-Sorcerer Supreme Strange goes on to solve his own murder. He finds that Caecilius was responsible for his death in order to steal his hands and the power that they held, thus exacting revenge on Strange and his own master Baron Mordo, who wanted nothing more in life than to kill Strange himself. Strange ends up casting a healing spell on his own hands, which transforms Caecilius into the older modern version of Doctor Strange, killing Caecilius in the process. This restores the powers of the Sorcerer Supreme to Earth, and Strange is ultimately able to defeat the Peregrine Child. His last act before death claims him again is to bestow the mantle of Sorcerer Supreme on Clea. Now, there has been a new Doctor Strange book called Strange, and it's only a few issues in, where Clea, having taken Strange's last name following his death, is now acting as the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. So obviously this character will become very important in the future of Marvel Comics, and hopefully she becomes important in the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as well. And that is about it for today's video. I hope you learned a lot, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe as well as comment below and all that other crap. This has been Nick with Key Issues, and remember the motto, Clea over everything.